Ever since I was a little kid, I've absolutely loved video games. I had a DS, a Game Boy, a Wii, a PS2, an iToy for that PS2, an Xbox 360, a Kinect, and you get the point. But recently, I noticed that most of the games I played in the last 3 years were made by huge AAA developers, and all of the games that I play are extremely popular and very well received. Now, this usually wouldn't be a bad thing, but once you've played one Call of Duty, you've played every single Call of Duty, and once you've played one superhero game, you've played all of the superhero games. Except for you, Arkham City. I still love you. Now, I understand that this argument doesn't really add up. I mean, all these games are amazing, but I've seen them all before. It's a little like going to the same 5-star restaurant every single day for 9 years. It's undeniably great food, but I've eaten that food every day, and I really want to try the local cafe. Sadly, I haven't been looking around for forgotten games for very long.
This is what I call the toothbrush throwing game. I have to try to get it in that hole. Frick.
And I've only started to notice this trend in the last 5 months or so, but very quickly it's started to frustrate me. I wanted to find and play the most underrated or forgotten game of the last 3 years. So, I asked for answers from the lovely Deadwater community, and I got some great responses, but the problem was, I either heard of them, played them, or watched someone else play them. After days of tearing out my hair and searching with no results, I decided I'd go to a guy who knows more about games than I probably ever will. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, other YouTube channel. I'm Ben Hanson from MinnMax. I was at Game Informer for 9 years as a video producer, doing rapid-fire interviews, cover story trips. I hosted the Game Informer Show podcast. Maybe you saw some clips on YouTube at some point. But throughout my time at Game Informer, I don't think I was more frustrated by the release of any game than the release of Amplitude on the PlayStation 4. I love harmonics. I go back to Frequency and Amplitude on the PlayStation 2. I thought those were just brilliant designs for music games. They miraculously, somehow, crowdfunded a reboot in some ways of Amplitude, released it on PlayStation 4. Nobody talked about it. Nobody loved it. Even people who have been screaming, hey, when are you going to make a new Amplitude? When are you going to make a new Frequency? They made one, and those people were like, it's not exactly what we wanted.
All right, Ben Hanson from MinnMax. What do you think that they wanted? What, did they want, like, Knack 2? Did they want a Knack 2 review? Alright, are you serious? Okay, Marvel from the future here. This bit was terrible, so I can't think of a better way to transition this.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks to you, I've finally found a game I've never heard of. One small problem, though, I don't own a PlayStation 4. At least I didn't until I started making this video because I bought one, and an Elgato, and Amplitude, and made my wallet cry for help. Oh god. Now that I made a giant dent in my wallet, it's time to get into whether or not this game actually lives up to the hype. Spoiler alert, it totally does. Amplitude is a rhythm game made by Harmonix, and that name probably sounds familiar to you. Harmonix is the same company who made most of the beat games you knew growing up, like Rock Band and Guitar Hero. This game is super similar to those, except in this one, you're a little tiny spaceship blasting its way through the most fun sci-fi concept album-fueled acid trip you've ever seen. The gameplay is ridiculously simple. You just move left and right across several tracks and press either the left bumper, right bumper, or right trigger in perfect sync with the dots on the track. Each time you finish a track, it disintegrates and you have an opportunity to jump over to another track and immediately start pressing those buttons again in the vain hope you might be able to chain them together for a point boost. Now, maybe it's just my love for music or my love for rhythm games in general, but something about this game just really got me hooked. I mean, first things first, the soundtrack is incredible. The music here is some of the best I've ever heard in a rhythm game, and that's thanks to the amazing group of people who came on to make it. Here's just a short sample of the names attached to this project. You got Danny Baranowski, the man behind songs from Super Meat Boy, Binding of Isaac, Crypt of the Necrodancer, and most recently, Cadence of Hyrule. C418, I mean, everyone knows C418. He made the Minecraft OST, which is arguably the most famous video game soundtrack of all time. Insomniac Games, they apparently put a song here? Well, that's weird. I don't know. Point is, the game's music is really freaking good. Every beat feels like you're being washed over with, like, sonic joy. Now, the game isn't totally flawless. In fact, I almost immediately noticed a few big issues. For starters, this game really babies you for a few levels, then it slowly feeds you little extra bits after each song clear. Now, this is fine for a song or two, but the game doesn't really throw any tough challenges in until about 5 songs in, and at that point, you're already a third of the way through the game. Or at least the main story, if you can call it that. Which brings me to my second point. I have no freaking clue what this game's story is. I think it's something brain related. There's a lot of mentions of brain stuff. Apparently, according to Google, this game has a narrative that's revealed through the lyrics of the songs, but the second-to-second gameplay requires so much pinpoint precision, focus, and foresight that expecting the player to be able to gather any semblance of thought during a song outside of, "Are you freaking kidding me? I hit that note. I totally hit that. Oh, now I screwed up that chain," Gah! Is totally unreasonable. Or maybe I'm just a dum-dum who can't multitask. You tell me. All that to say, Amplitude on the PlayStation 4 isn't a dramatic game with intertwining threads and character paths that will tug at your heartstrings, or melt your brain. And in all honesty, I'm glad that it isn't. Much like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, Amplitude is a game you can pick up on your lunch break, play a few songs, and get right back to work with no hassle. You don't feel like you're going to forget where you're at, and there's no need to backtrack. I mean, make no mistake, this game unapologetically moves forward, and once it gets rolling, it really gets rolling. This game starts throwing a lot at you very quickly. I really recommend avoiding quick play until you're an Amplitude god, because there's a few songs in here that even on intermediate mode were so challenging that they legitimately put my sister in a bad mood. It didn't dissuade her from wanting to come back to the game, but it was pretty rough. Speaking of playing this game with my sister, let's unpack this multiplayer. Yeah. So tell me about the monks.
Well, I don't know much about monks, but I know the show Monk, which is pretty good, and also he washes his hands always 24/7, which is me because I work.
Who stars in the show Monk?
Adrian Monk.
Take all of the good things I've said about the game, multiply them by 3, and then throw it in a blender, and you've got the multiplayer for this game. Imagine playing a super stressful and intense song that has you leaping across all of the tracks, trying your best to prepare for the next sequence. Now, imagine doing that with someone you care about right next to you, yelling at you for flying into the track they wanted to be in because it's all your fault and you did it on purpose just to make me mad. That's this game's multiplayer, and somehow it's easily the most fun I've had with my sister in a long time. She almost never wants to play anything with me, yet she's asked to come back to Amplitude more than once since we first played together. This game was really challenging for her, especially at first, but we both share a love for music, and that's opened up a new door for our relationship. Sometimes that door is filled with anger, sure, but the experience of sharing a game with someone you love and having them love it just as much is bar none. Even when they interrupt your sequence and make you want to rip their throat out.
I beat you. Aha!
This is your second time playing Amplitude, and you've already wrecked me.
Only by 6 points.
This game really is an absolute delight. From the super fun soundtrack to the addictive gameplay loop, I've had more fun experiencing this game than I have with almost any other game in years. And after a few weeks of playing, I've found myself in a situation much like Ben's, wondering why this game was so forgotten. I mean, this game is such a gem. I won't speculate too much on why this game failed to get noticed. I don't know nearly enough about the history of harmonics and Amplitude to do so, but I will say if this game were on PC, I would have found it years ago. And I'm sure many, many others would have as well. Overall, I've really loved my time with this game. Now, would I recommend buying a PlayStation 4 for the sole purpose of playing it? Absolutely not. Don't be an idiot with your money, like me. But if you already own a PlayStation 4 and like rhythm games, I truly believe you'd be hard-pressed to find an experience more uniquely fun than Amplitude on the PlayStation 4. It's only $20 on the PlayStation Store, so if you have the money, go give it some love, and let me know what you think. Also, please share this video and subscribe. Every view this gets helps fund my future bad spending decisions. Huge thank you to MinnMax for being a part of this video. MinnMax is a channel about games, friends, and getting better. It's also home to what is easily one of my favorite podcasts of all time. If you want a place to chat about anything from video games to movies to your red hot takes on the latest alternative underground rock album from artist Jay Smith, consider joining their Patreon at even the $2 tier and getting access to their Discord. I'm there, and I really, really love it. Thank you, and have a good night.